We request the guests to please settle down. We'll be starting with the next panel. The guests are requested to please take their tea and sit on their place. The guests. I'll call the speaker. The guests are please requested to settle down. We start our session on real estate. To moderate this session, the guests are please requested to sit down. Yeah, it's not a problem.
Hey Gaurav, how are you doing? Pretty good.
Sure.
See you in the market.
The guests are please requested to sit down. We'll start with the panel. It is a sincere request to all the guests to please settle down. We start our session on real estate. To moderate this session, we have Mr. Mihir Bhatt, Bureau Chief, Zee Business. Mihir Bhatt is the head of Zee Business Mumbai with an experience of 10 years in journalism. He is a prime-time anchor for the channel and leads the market opening show. He has been a leading stock market anchor and represents Zee Business to the stalwarts of India. Over to you, Mihir.
Good morning everyone. I request all of you to take your seats and please put your mobile phones on silent mode. We have some very good dignitaries here. So in next 1 hour we are going to take overview of what is going to happen in real estate, and one question which keeps coming to all of our minds कि आखिरकार हम घर कब खरीद पाएंगे. So I hope we get the answer, and उसके लिए लोन मिलेगा कि नहीं वो भी पता चल जाएगा with Mr. Mistry here. So I hope all of you will cooperate. Please take your seats. We'll start in 2 minutes. Alright, so we'll start the discussion now, and a very warm welcome on behalf of IMC and Zee Business on this special seminar. I'll start with Mr. Mistry, who is here. Sir, morning to you, and thanks for joining us. First of all, a very basic question, sir. What is your outlook as far as the economic scenario is concerned, the real estate scenario is concerned, and the general sentiment of India's story is concerned? Where are we at this point?
I think we are very close to the elections, and a lot of what happens over the next couple of years will depend on how the elections pan out. Markets are expecting a strong, stable government at the center, and if that were to happen, my sense is that the investment cycle, which has been slow now for the last 2 or 3 years, that will start picking up. And if the investment cycle starts picking up and people start investing into creation of new capacities, new factories, new plant and machinery, then that would create jobs. As jobs get created, consumption will increase. As consumption increases and demand increases for goods and services, more people will want to produce more people will start newer and newer manufacturing units, which means the demand for real estate, commercial real estate, which over the last 3 years has been weak, that demand can pick up and pick up very sharply. As far as the residential market is concerned, my sense is and has always been that irrespective of what happens, the residential demand for real estate in India will always remain strong for a number of reasons. And I think the fundamental reason is that there is a huge need, a massive need for housing in India. Urbanization is taking place in India. As urbanization takes place, more and more need takes place for providing housing to people. And more importantly, if you look at the demographics of India, 60% of India's population is below 30 years of age. And unlike the West, in India, people do not go and buy a house when they're in their 20s. So the average age of a customer when he applies to us for a loan and he's a first-time home buyer, his average age would be between 35 and 38. And with 60% of India's population today being below 30 years of age, all these people will in the next 1, 3, 5, 7, 10 years need housing and therefore housing loans. So my sense is that irrespective of what happens, as long as people don't start losing jobs, the demand for residential housing will always remain strong. Commercial will be more a function of how the economy pans out.
Also now, since you mentioned economy, ये जो एक perception है market में that the economy will pick up if we have a strong government in place and probably a regime change. That's what people are hoping for. That's what people are looking at. Do you believe in that theory?
Oh, absolutely. I said that in the beginning. I said that once the elections are over, if people perceive a strong, stable government at the center, the investment cycle will pick up, and that will be the turning point that India needs. I meet a lot of international investors all the time, and I keep telling them that whilst the GDP numbers may have slowed down and IIP numbers have slowed down, and we've had some problems on current account deficit in the past and so on and so forth, the fundamentals of India have not changed. We are still a very young country. We are still a very, very under-penetrated market. So whatever product you look at, penetration levels in India are extremely low, and therefore the growth opportunity in India will remain very strong. All that we need to see is a change in sentiment which will bring in or which will kickstart the investment cycle, where people start creating new facilities, start new factories, new businesses. That is all that we need. And if that happens, the economy will keep revolving around itself, primarily because we are a young country.
Also, sir, now, if I was to touch upon the manifesto which was released by BJP, and I'm not looking for a political answer from you, but it does mention about developing 100 new cities, and that will directly impact the real estate sector across the country. What is your view on that?
My view is that urbanization in India, in any case, by any estimate, is going to increase. And there are any number of reports which will show that urbanization in India will increase. More towns and cities will get developed, and that essentially will create huge demand for real estate and for housing in India. If we were to look at our business, for example, our retail business, and if we were to look at the growth in the top 5 cities in India, our largest growth would come from Delhi NCR, second would come from Mumbai, third would come from Chennai, fourth would be Bangalore, fifth would be Pune. But it's not business which would originate in the hearts of the city. So when we look at Mumbai, for example, all of us tend to look at Mumbai up to, let's say, Borivali. But really, the demand that is taking place in Mumbai today is in the outskirts of big cities. So these outskirts of big cities, or tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 towns and cities in and around Pune, where there is so much of growth that is taking place, that is where more and more growth will happen as some of these, as you say, 100 more cities get created.
Right. We also have Mr. Mantri with us. Sir, मेरा सवाल ये आपके लिए है. What is the urgent need for real estate sector at this point? Because काफ़ी हमने इसके बारे में सुना है 2008 से slow down है. In fact, and I cover stock market, so I keep hearing that real estate is a big worry, it's a big threat, and not only listed companies but otherwise also. So सबसे urgent need इस समय sector की क्या है, which needs to be addressed by the new government?
Okay. I think we have a huge demand. A big list is there, but to summarize in short, I'll just try to mention 4 or 5 of them. The first and foremost, the real estate being one of the second largest employer, we have not been given a status of industry or the infra. I think that's a demand which was there with the previous government, and we'll continue to demand the same with the new government, whichever is going to be formed on 16th of the May. So the industry status or the infra status is the biggest requirement, but that will open up a huge channel for funding to be made available in this sector, because as you know, the real estate sector, the funding to this sector is being controlled. The land, we don't get any funding. For the construction also, we have to run around the banks, because one single bank doesn't take. We have to make a consortium, and a lot of time is goes in this process. So funding to the developer is another challenge which is available, but it is very minimum one, what I can say, compared to the requirement. So that is required. The third point, the biggest problem which our industry is facing is the whole system of the approvals. As you know, I think generally a building plan, by the time you get approval from the local municipal corporation, then you get an environment clearance, usually take anything between 18 to 36 months. So I think it is a big question mark for all of us, and if you have read a statement issued by Deepak Parekh, if you make online the whole approval process, the real estate prices can come down by 10 to 20%. So if you avoid the desk procedure of the files moving from one desk to another one, and it moves to like 60 desks, if you give online clearances within 60 days, which is a time frame stipulated in the law, I think the whole price factor, at least to my best of knowledge, it can come down 10%. So the approval is the biggest challenge for all the developers. That's one. One more point I would like to mention, the infrastructure. Now, always real estate players are blamed that the prices are too high. That's always criticism is made. Now, you have to understand, unless until you create land, that means you give the higher FAR. Currently, the FAR in Island City is 1.33 and suburban is 1, which at least need 10. If you see any international cities, the FAR are around between 10 to 30. So I am hoping that FAR standard is completely rewritten. So that's the need of the hour. And second way to add the land bank by making the connectivity, creating the infra. For example, say Mumbai to Panvel or Mumbai to Khopoli. If you reach in 30-40 minutes, I think whole of the Khopoli can develop. The one bridge what we are talking is under tender for last 10 years. The airport we know last 10-15 years we are listening the story. So infra is a key issue. We are not able to create a proper connectivity by the road as well as the metro or train. Unless until you create the connectivity, more land parcels cannot be made available. So I think the whole close by area to Mumbai or up to Khopoli, 60 square kilometer, 80 square kilometer needed to be added to create more affordable housing stock also and keep the realty prices under check. So these are few important agenda which we look forward from the new government.
We have Mr. Gupta also with us, who is from Omkar. But इनका जो व्यू है सुनील, वो शायद थोड़ा अलग है, एंड मैं फिर आपको मौका भी दूंगा टू काउंटर हिम. बट आई वाज डिस्कसिंग विद हिम, सेशन शुरू हुआ उससे पहले, एंड हिज व्यू इज दैट रियल एस्टेट प्राइसेस तो और आगे बढ़ने वाले हैं यहाँ से, इमटेरियल ऑफ ऑनलाइन क्लियरेंस हो, ऑफलाइन हो, एंड नई गवर्नमेंट आने के बाद. सो वुड यू वांट टू ऐड टू दैट?
Yeah, what I was discussing with you was respect to the Bombay market. Now, if you look at Bombay and Delhi, you know, the two biggest cities in the country. Look at Delhi. Delhi is expanding from, taking Sunil's point further, you know, Delhi is expanding from all four corners. They have Gurgaon, Noida, Faridabad, the city is round. And if you take the example of Bombay, you know, unfortunately we have water on three sides. So the only way which Bombay can expand is towards the north. Or you create infrastructure which Sunil was talking about, you know, towards Khopoli or towards, you know, the Nhava Sheva Sibri sea link which we've been talking about, which can bring in further land. Honestly speaking, you know, we don't see that happening over a long period of time. So because of those land constraints, you know, and there is less supply in Bombay. You look at it, you know, Bombay historically over the past couple of years, a lot of regulations have changed in Bombay. We've had the new development control regulations coming into place. Now what has been the impact of these development control regulations has been, is that, you know, earlier the developers used to build, typically if you look at it, larger houses. You know, the FSI component, the free of FSI component which was there in the industry, that has been reduced with the advent of the new DCR. Plus, there has been a premium which has been added for the fungible FSI. The construction cost has drastically gone up over the past couple of years. And fourthly, we've started building more and more of high-rises. If you take all these factors into account, you know, over the past couple of years, I don't think the real estate prices have increased to the tune they're supposed to increase. With the advent of the new government coming in, you know, and we're looking at a positive scenario, if the new government coming in, I think prices will definitely go up, because developers today, because of the economic scenario, not able to increase prices as much as possible. Plus, I think what will change also is the product mix. If you look at historically in Bombay, we had larger units. You know, we had even a 2 BHK for that matter was 1400 or 1500 square feet. Or 3 BHK was, you know, 2000, 2200 square feet. With the advent of the new DCR, you will see new products coming into the market. You will see a 2 BHK typically, you know, maybe 950 to 1100 square feet. You will see a 3 BHK in the range of 1500 to 1700 square feet. So I think the overall ticket size in Bombay will reduce. What's important for Bombay is the affordability. So the overall ticket size will reduce, but the price per square feet will definitely go up in the long run.
राइट लेकिन ये जो एक आपने मुद्दा उठाया है, इनफैक्ट दिस इज अ जनरल, सुनील मैं आपसे भी कमेंट चाहूंगा इस पे, एंड देन मिस्टर मिस्त्री कैन एलॉबरेट. ये एक परसेप्शन है, और ये ऐसा नहीं कि सिर्फ मीडिया में है, हर जगह है कि बिल्डर्स एक बार दाम बढ़ा देते हैं तो उसके बाद कम नहीं करते हैं. पॉकेट्स में शायद वो जैसे टिपिकल बम्बईया लैंग्वेज में कहते हैं कि वंस यू सिट ऑन द टेबल तो शायद वो थोड़ा बहुत नेगोशिएट हो जाए, बट प्राइजेस नेवर कम डाउन. तो ये जो आप बता रहे हैं कि ऑनलाइन हो जाएगा अप्रूवल तो इससे प्राइजेस विल ड्रॉप ऑलमोस्ट बाय 20%, डू यू थिंक ये सच में होने वाला है?
देखिए, रियल एस्टेट में सबसे बड़ी परेशानी है कि सप्लाई. जो अभी प्रेजेंट सिनेरियो है, फाइल क्लियरेंस की आप गति देखेंगे तो ऑन एन एवरेज कोई भी फाइल क्लियर होने में करीबन 2 या 3 साल लग जाते हैं. आप जब तक कोई भी चीज में सप्लाई नहीं बढ़ाएंगे, एक्स्ट्राऑर्डिनरी सप्लाई नहीं क्रिएट करेंगे और एडिशनल लैंड बैंक आप कनेक्ट नहीं करेंगे, तब तक ये प्राइसेस बढ़ती रहेगी. आपको एक कंपैरिजन के लिए मैं हैदराबाद का एग्जांपल देता हूं. मुंबई के सामने हम हैदराबाद को कंपेयर करेंगे. लुक एट हैदराबाद. यू हैव ह्यूज एफएआर, करीबन 5-6 अनलिमिटेड एफएसआई कॉन्सेप्ट है. पूरी सिटी करीबन 60-80 स्क्वायर किलोमीटर प्रॉपर इंफ्रा से कनेक्टेड है, और उस वजह से हैदराबाद की प्राइसेस थोड़ी बहुत कंट्रोल में है. इतनी ज्यादा मुंबई जैसे इन्फ्लेट नहीं हुई है कंपैरेटिवली. हम मुंबई की बात करें तो लैंड हमारे पास कम अवेलेबल है, कनेक्टिविटी इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर जितना स्पीड से हम चाहते हैं वो हो नहीं रहा है. इस वजह से बहुत लिमिटेड लैंड पे बहुत ज्यादा प्रेशर है, और उस वजह से प्राइसेस बहुत फर्म और स्ट्रांग है. कोई भी फाइल क्लियरेंस की जो समय हम लगा देते हैं तो उस वजह से सप्लाई मार्केट में जितनी स्पीड से आनी चाहिए उतनी आ नहीं पाई.
So you are saying that is creating artificial bubble.
इट इज वन वे. मतलब गवर्नमेंट एक प्रकार से जो भी फाइलों की गति है, जो भी चल रहे हैं रिजल्ट्स, उसके हिसाब से एक प्रकार से गवर्नमेंट एक प्रकार से इसको कंट्रोल कर रही है, ये भी मैं मानूंगा. क्योंकि अगर कोई भी सीएम डिसाइड कर ले कि 60 डेज में रियल एस्टेट की परमिशन दी जाएगी, तो मुझे नहीं लगता कोई डिसीजन है. डिसीजन तो उन्हें लेना ही है, 18 महीने के बाद लेना है, 36 महीने के बाद लेना है. तो क्यों नहीं 60 डेज जो स्टैट्यूटरी लॉ में टाइम फ्रेम दिया है 60 डेज में करो. और क्यों हमें गवर्नमेंट के ऑफिस बार बार जाना पड़ता है फाइलें क्लियर करवाने के लिए? आप क्यों नहीं ऑनलाइन, जैसे आप कोई भी चीज अप्लाई करो तो आपको ऑनलाइन क्लियरेंस मिलता है, तो रियल एस्टेट में देने में क्या दिक्कत है? मुझे नहीं लगता कोई प्रॉब्लम है उसमें देने में, क्योंकि सारी चीजें ट्रांसपेरेंटली अगर इसमें प्रोसेस अडॉप्ट करे तो निश्चित रूप से प्राइजेस होगी. ऑफकोर्स आपको इंफ्रा बनाना पड़ेगा, अधिक लैंड लानी पड़ेगी, एफएसआई के रिलैक्सेशन देने पड़ेंगे, सीआरजेड नॉर्म्स. ये काफी मतलब मुझे लगता है दुनिया लाफ करती है इंडिया के सीआरजेड रूल्स रेगुलेशन से. दुबई अगर आप जाते हैं तो दुबई ने 3 आइलैंड समुद्र के बीच में बनाए हैं, और हम इंडिया में बात कर रहे हैं कि समुद्र से 500 मीटर छोड़ के हम बनाए. अगर एग्जिस्टिंग रोड है, एग्जिस्टिंग रीडेवलपमेंट ऑफ द बिल्डिंग है, उसे भी सीआरजेड लगा देते हैं. तो मुझे नहीं लग रहा है, ये बहुत ही जोक है, बिगेस्ट जोक ऑफ द डे है ये. और ऐसे रूल्स गवर्नमेंट लाती है जो काफी अपने आप हास्यास्पद है. तो जब तक ये रूल्स रेगुलेशन हम सिंपल नहीं करेंगे, मुझे नहीं लगता है कि सप्लाई बढ़ेगा और उससे प्राइजेस होगी नहीं. तो आपको सिंपल फॉर्मूला हैदराबाद जैसे आपको फॉलो करना पड़ेगा, और अगर वो फॉलो करते हैं तो मुझे लगता है कि रियलिस्टिक प्राइजेस काफी रीजनेबल वे से रह सकती है. और अगर प्राइजेस रीजनेबल है, अफोर्डेबल है, तो वॉल्यूम्स काफी बड़े पैमाने पे डेवलपर्स के बढ़ेंगे. मतलब हमें ये नहीं चाहिए कि बहुत ज्यादा प्राइजेस बढ़ रही है. अल्टीमेटली इट बिकम्स अनअफोर्डेबल एंड ऑफ द डे. दिस इज माय व्यू.
राइट लेकिन एक काम करते हैं, पोल सीजन चल रहा है, सो आप में से जिन लोगों को ये लगता है कि अगर ऑनलाइन क्लियरेंस हो जाएगा तो बिल्डर्स प्राइस कम करेंगे, प्लीज रेज योर हैंड्स, जिनको लगता है बिल्डर्स प्राइस कम करेंगे. Okay, Mr. Gupta is saying quite a few of them. Anyways, Mr. Mistry, in fact, Deepak Parekh Sahab, he has been speaking about this for past 5-6 years that the prices need to come down. एक तो ये, and दूसरा, what is your personal view on this widening gap between affordable housing, जिसकी बार बार बात होती है, which is almost a wishful thinking, and second is what is available in the market, the product which is available, especially Bombay में अगर आप देखें.
See, let's first come to the second part of your question, which is affordable housing. Affordable housing as a concept, it is very difficult to have in Bombay, simply because Bombay land is not available. As I think Sunil said very correctly, there are so many constraints on availability of land in Mumbai, issues on clearance, title clearance, issues on getting approvals. All that delay adds to the cost. Now, if you talk, so therefore getting affordable housing in Mumbai realistically is a very, very, very difficult task. Outside of Mumbai, it is possible to get affordable housing where land is available. Basically, land prices, if you can reduce, for affordable housing is there. If you look at tier 3, tier 4 cities in India today, there is affordable housing. There is housing that you can get in the range of 10 lakhs to 20 lakhs, 10 lakhs to 25 lakhs, even 5 lakhs, 10 lakh housing you can get. But certainly not in the big metropolitan cities. Now coming to prices and why prices are high, my sense is prices are high for two reasons. The first reason is, like any commodity, the price of that commodity is a function of demand and supply. So demand in India is for residential property is insatiable. So whatever you do, demand will be there. It might be little weak in some quarter, as I said earlier, it might be stronger in another quarter, but fundamentally demand will always remain strong because of the young population, the need for housing, urbanization, and so many other reasons. So only way you can bring prices lower is to increase supply, which is I think the point which Sunil made. Now to increase supply you need to do two things. One is make land available at a lower price. There are various ways you can improve supply. So reducing supply of land or reducing the price for land is one option. Second is making lending for land a formal system so that the banking system can give loans for buying land. Today the banking system is prohibited for giving loans for buying land, and therefore developers have to buy land from private equity investments where the return that they have to pay is huge. And if further you compound that with delayed approval of projects where you already paid for the land, then obviously the property price keeps going higher and higher, the construction cost goes higher and higher. And therefore if the construction cost goes higher, the selling price also is going to go higher.
We have Shahzad also with us. Sir, your view basically on the funding scenario at this point, because like Mr. Mantri also mentioned that part of the problem is also the funding for the real estate development in the country, and second is obviously the approvals related to each project. And the timeline is obviously very important for any person who is funding a particular project. So what is your view, and are you seeing any signs of stress at this point in this industry?
The real estate sector in India will ultimately reflect the underlying economy. And if you are seeing a slowdown in very many sectors, you're going to see that in real estate too. Ultimately, this is a big ticket item. It's impacted to a great extent by interest rates and very importantly by confidence. So jab interest rates are at the levels they are maybe, and confidence is at, maybe people are a little cautious, obviously you would have some amount of let us say, slower offtake in real estate than you might have it had in the past. So that's the first point which I would make. So clearly, just like it is in autos, and I will use automobiles as an example, where you've seen a slowdown because it's similar big ticket item, etc., with interest rates impacting it, you've seen a similar situation here. That said, firstly, it varies. In real estate, there is no particular, I think it's not one consolidated whole. Just like in a stock market, what you would say, where say there are different stocks, different sectors, they have their different cycles. So here, every micro market is different. Bangalore is doing relatively better than some other markets. Mumbai has its own problems. Gurgaon has its own problems. So each market varies. But one of the, or a couple of things which we've seen really stand out in the last some time is the following. See, those who can deliver i.e. those who can actually put up a structure, and those who can sell are still doing in this difficult environment fairly well for themselves. So clearly when you look at what's happening around you, things like branding, things like your ability to sell is becoming far more FMCG-like. So those who can deliver on those fronts, they are still managing in a very, very difficult situation. But the earlier model, which was buy and hold land, etc., that's coming under a lot of question. Stress is there. Selectively, of course, you can't generalize, say everybody is under stress. Yes, to greater or lesser extents, like even the largest corporates in India are under stress. So to greater or lesser extents, yahan par bhi stress hai. The way I would put it in summary is that we are obviously waiting for a lot which would happen, let's say, post the elections, and hopefully, and I use the word here very carefully, hopefully, what we saw in 2009, if anyone recollects what happened in 2009 post the elections, one is, of course, the election results were declared on a Saturday morning. We generally knew what happened on the election results. Monday morning, of course, everyone knows from out here in the stock market what happened. You have an upper circuit in the stock market. But you also saw literally from Sunday, Sauda started happening again. And real estate market post-Lehman had really slowed down. So it's a lot of function is of confidence. Now I'm speaking more specifically of Mumbai, wherein, it's more related to financial markets, more related to the service industry. So I would imagine that hopefully we should see things improving, let's say, in the not too distant future, and see how
it goes. With the same government coming in or a different one?
Sorry? I didn't get you?
With the same government coming in or a different one?
Well, anyway, everyone's been reading the opinion polls. Let's go with that. Because, obviously I have no further insight on this. I just say that, let's put it, opinion polls, let's say that they know more than I do.
Okay, so you're going by them. You can always blame it on polls. All right. Joe, I would like to bring you in. Now, this whole perception, and आप जितने भी foreign reports पढ़ेंगे, or the foreign brokerage reports or whatsoever, one general view is that there is a lot of expectation build up from the new government, which will be probably a different government in all likelihood. But forget all that. As far as real estate sector is concerned in India, at this point, from foreign investment perspective, what is your view if you compare India to maybe a comparable market in the emerging market basket somewhere else?
Okay, if you look at investment in real estate from a foreign institutional perspective, it's actually slowed down tremendously. It had touched close to between $8 to $9 billion in 2007. It's just touching about $1 billion right now for 2013. There's multiple reasons for it. One is to do with sentiment. So I won't go to that. Sentiments can change the perception and the confidence that investors would have to build. Second is historically, for investments made during 2005, 2006, 2007, investors have not had a great experience, and the experience kind of relates to some of the factors that Mr. Mantri, Mr. Mistry and Gaurav spoke to. Because there is a lot of uncertainty, there's a lot of regulations in this market, there's a lot of unpredictability, right? I would, since we are sitting in the Bombay Stock Exchange, I would kind of compare it to the kind of uncertainty people felt when the stock market opened up for foreign institutional investors in 1991, 92, and in the first wave, when foreign investors came in, one of my first projects as an MBA student was to look at how to reduce objections, because there was a whole lot of shares that went out and got objections under registration. That doesn't exist today. That doesn't exist today. I mean, and I remember as a student reading through a book that had close to 105 rules on how shares can come under objection. I don't think that book will probably be in the BSc museum right now. So if you look at from a long-term perspective, I see these hurdles kind of moving away. I see the markets demanding these changes and these changes happening. So even if a new government comes, unless they make some changes in the regulations, the sentiment can drive it to a certain point, but true demand can only come with those changes. And if you look at each sector, if you look at the commercial sector, like has been mentioned before, there is an oversupply, especially in markets like Mumbai. That will change only by increase in economic activity. But if you look at the hospitality sector, there was huge undersupply in 2007-2008. Taking that into account, a lot of construction went into hospitality. Today we are sitting in an oversupply in most major markets. That would again change once economic activity increases. If you look at residential, that's a very interesting sector. Huge demand, and in some markets we still don't see that kind of traction. I think Mr. Mantri, Mr. Mistry kind of address those issues. Unless the government takes steps to address land, unlocking land, clearing up regulations, that will continue to have a problem with price. And the last is retail. I think retail is one sector that people are kind of ignoring right now. But I see a lot of activity happening there, especially in organized retail. It had been a sector where returns on investments had been very low in the past. But with multi-brand retail opening up, while there's still some confusion on the clarity on whether they will be allowed in certain states or not, I see a lot of multinational retailers making a lot of inroads, and that will have an effect on good organized retail assets in prime markets. So those would be good assets to look at if you're looking at it from an investment perspective, especially people who hold it.
Right. Mr. Mistry, in fact, आपका view इस पे क्या है? Because there has been a lot of debate, and to some extent there was disappointment also about the stand that BJP has taken as far as multi-brand retail is concerned. But from real estate perspective, do you really see potential in this segment, and can we really expect things to move in next 3-4 years, even if they come to power, or they don't?
As I explained to you in the beginning, and this is, whilst I agree with what everything Shehzad said, I don't entirely agree with one thing, which is on interest rates. So the mention was that lowering of interest rates will push growth significantly. That's not our experience. Our experience over the last 10 or 12 years, and we tried to correlate interest rates and demand for housing loans, and therefore logically demand for housing, we have not seen that correlation. For example, if you take the year ended March 2013, which is the last financial year, we had a 31% growth in our individual loan book, which is the highest growth rate for a year that we've had for more than 6 years, and on a much, much larger base. And this was at a time when interest rates were high. So I don't think interest rates per se makes that much difference in a person's decision to buy a house, particularly the middle income category. Because for them, a house is the most important possession. If the family likes the house, if they like the house, if the house is affordable, the people will still buy the house, and the job is stable, people will still buy the house irrespective whether rates are high or low. And people generally prefer to take floating rate loans, so even if rates are high at the time you take the loan, you will get the benefit of falling rates whenever rates come down. So that's as far as housing is concerned. As far as the real estate sector is concerned, I think whilst the residential market will continue, in my view, to keep growing, the commercial market is very, very closely linked to the state of the economy. So if the economic growth picks up, if the investment cycle, basically it's investment, people start creating new facilities, if that happens, demand for commercial real estate will pick up. Commercial real estate prices have come down, and come down a lot in the last 5 years. That can pick up sharply if we have a stable government at the center.
Mr. Gupta, this question is for you. ये जो oversupply की बात की, जो ने भी बात कही है, your view on that, and second, the lower end of the spectrum or the lower margin segment, जिसे कहते हैं, typically the affordable housing or the redevelopment market where you are present, and you have in fact also attracted PE funding in some of your projects. What is the ground reality here at this point?
I'll first answer the oversupply section which you talked about. If you look at Bombay, there's a lot of media reports specifically that's, there's a lot of oversupply. I think oversupply is there in a typical product. If you talk about luxury housing as such, which I told you, historically in Bombay, houses which were built were generally big in sizes, 1500 or 2 BHK or 2000, or probably, we didn't even have those ranges. We had more of a 3 and 4 BHKs which were historically built. So if you look at it, I think there is a bit of competition when it comes to luxury products, because what has happened is typically maximum of the luxury products have been built in central Bombay. Now if you look at central Bombay, typically you have the lower Parel belt and you have the Worli belt. So I think it's more at the lower Parel belt, where historically being closer to South Bombay, developers thought, that historically lower Parel was a commercial area. But with the slowdown in commercials, people started building, larger units out there, thinking close to South Bombay, closer proximity. So, even that can sell since commercial had slowed down. But if you look at it, if you take a prime area like Worli, or any prime area like a Nepean Road on an Altamont, if you build the right luxury product out there, I don't think there's an oversupply out there. You are seeing transactions taking place. So I think it's a mix of the product. So it's a problem of the product mix typically. Because you build the wrong product at the wrong location, that's the reason for an oversupply in those particular areas. Going ahead, like I mentioned, ticket sizes in Bombay will drastically reduce. You will see 1 and 2 BHKs coming in, typically 1 BHK in the range of 700, 650 square feet, or 2 BHK coming in with a 952 and 1100 square feet. So I think with these reduced unit sizes, your affordability levels will drastically come down. Today you get nothing in Bombay. You talk about municipal limits, less than 170, 180, you don't get anything. I think with this you'll start getting new products in the range of 80 lakhs, maybe 1 crore 25 lakhs, 1 crore 40 lakhs, or 2 BHK. So I think with that, the demand supply mismatch, there's a huge mismatch. For an affordable ticket size in Bombay, there is huge demand. Like even Mr. Mistry said, residential is not a problem typically. And when it comes to the redevelopment sector, I think redevelopment is a mode of acquisition of land in Bombay, because that's the only way where you can get supply in Bombay. If you look at Bombay, typically, whatever mill lands are there, I think they'll be absorbed with the kind of land valuations which exist today. Over the next maybe 3 to 5 years, the remaining land parcels will also be absorbed. So I think the only way Bombay can get supply, is by the entire city breaking down and being rebuilt over the next 15 to 20 years. So I think we talk about financing in redevelopment space. I think redevelopment space, I think there's a lack of, professional developers available in this space. So I think if you are able to do good work, you have a good track record, I think there's no shortage of finance available for this particular sector.
Right. Mr. Mistry, in fact, a view from you, and then Mr. Mantri can add to that. ये जो luxury projects की बात हो रही है, now, you open any newspaper, or you travel on any artery road, be it Eastern Express Highway or Western Express Highway, most of the hoardings that you come across, immaterial of whether project is in Worli or Wadala or 60, 70, 80 kilometers from Bombay, even places like Palghar and all. The typical USP of the project would be, super luxury living, and pata chala there is no water connection there, but he is giving you a LED TV, or there is no road connectivity there, but the builder is offering free Mercedes. So is there a disconnect somewhere? Because frankly, a normal middle class working person who is my viewer or Z Business viewer, वो ये hoarding देख के maybe he'll think of selling whatever he has here, forget buying new, and maybe shifting to a tier 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 city and at least get some shelter,
I guess what the developers are building reflects the mood of the people. So a lot of people do want these so-called super luxurious kind of apartments where there is a clubhouse and a swimming pool and all the stuff that goes with it, better quality construction and so on and so forth. But that is not the only market. The bigger market is for middle income salaried employees wanting to buy a house for their own use. Take our own case. Our average loan amount on a pan-India basis this year has been about 22 lakhs, 21,90,000 rupees. This is for new loans given this year. Our average loan to value ratio is 65%. So you're looking at a property value of 35 lakhs, all India. Now if you were to look at Mumbai in particular, our average loan amount in Mumbai might be between 35 and 40 lakhs. So you're looking at a property which is costing around 60, 65, 70 lakhs. Now obviously these are not properties south of Borivali. These are all properties in the distant outskirts of the city, which is where the markets are strong. So you are looking at a few projects here in central Bombay or in metropolitan Mumbai, south of the airport, south of Andheri, and blowing that up. But reality, the growth is not there. The growth is all coming in the outskirts.
Mr. Mantri, your turn now. No, maybe you can throw a better perspective. From a developer perspective, this whole concept of selling projects as a luxury product, now obviously the levels would differ. So a luxury project in Worli will be much more different than what a developer would offer in Wadala or maybe in Virar. but it is being labeled as luxury product, and lot of the things that you see, you know, swimming pool, clubhouse and things like that. But and in fact, I got a very good question from someone that ये सब लोग बनाते हैं builder swimming pool वगैरह वगैरह, पर बाद में क्या उसमें पानी supply होता है क्या 5 साल के बाद? You know, that is a question that you get from viewer. What is your reply on that?
I think when we market the project, any developer market the project, I think what he is going to provide within the campus or within the project or within his township is displayed, and that's the way the usual marketing is done. Now, I think let's take a call. Usually, second point also you mentioned that whether the clubhouse or swimming pool or those amenities is a real luxury or it's a common one. I believe it is becoming more and more common. I am doing one affordable, we are working on one affordable housing project also. You may not believe it, we are trying to provide a pool as well as clubhouse in that. So I think those days or those concepts have gone. If your flat is worth 5 crore, 10 crore, then only you have a clubhouse or the pool and so on. I think everyone has right today, and I think nothing wrong in that. Now the developer's job is to create these things and hand over to the society. As you know, the law is clear, within 4 months we need to form the society and hand over to them. Now maintaining those facilities is a job of the society. I think we can't run after maintenance and collect this, and there are professional companies available who can maintain the campus very well. Of course, the people have to pay the price for that, because nothing will come free. And as far as you have mentioned that there may not be road, there may not be water, there may not be a proper connectivity, or there may not be a bus service available. I think the infra is completely controlled by the government agency or the local municipal authority. So far, none of the developer has given a right to bring the infra up to their project. Even you'll be surprised if you need an electric connection and we may need to bring 10 kilometers away. That is at our cost and expenses. So I think eventually we expect government to improve on the infra factor. Ultimately they collect a huge revenue. You must have seen the figures. Almost 10,000 crore revenue they collected. The official numbers I am giving you, please. So they collect in the government kitty. So I think they are required to also spend in creating the infra, and if the infra is done, I think it will be a good life, people who are going to buy those kind of the properties.
Right. Shahzad, you want to counter what Mr. Mistry just mentioned in his previous answer, in fact the last one, that bringing down interest rates may not really help improving the demand, and it's a much broader subject rather than, you know, linking it directly only to interest rates. Residential. Yeah.
No, not really. I don't want, I have no intention of countering it. In fact, if it did come across that, you know, I said that any item which is big, which is impacted by various factors, including confidence, including, you know, a loan value, that typically slows down, and we've seen that in all sectors. I use the analogy of auto. It is, I agree with him, and he's obviously speaking with data. So I have no contention on that factor, right? It's obviously not one factor alone which drives, you know, demand, and it's a composite, right? It's a composite that, and a lot across, and demand would be driven, whether even commercial or any investment, even stock market investment, is primarily a function of confidence to a great extent. Not primarily a function, to a great extent it's driven by that. That interest rate is just one of them, and I take his point, especially in the category, and when you're looking at non-investors maybe, and especially in the category of actual home loan buyers of the ticket size, which he did mention. He's absolutely correct. So, no issue on that.
All right. So what we'll do is, we have last 10 minutes. So I'll start taking closing remarks, and then Mr. Mistry can maybe wind up the session. Mr. Joe, if you can give your closing remarks, and what is your outlook as far as next 1 year or 2 years are concerned?
Of course, it's a given that things would only improve from a sentiment perspective if there is a stable government in the center. Besides that, I think the sentiment can only drive the market to a certain extent. I think the government has to take action on a few areas which will improve confidence even further and increase commercial activity. And they are in the areas of having clear policies with relation to retail, and in the area of residence. I think a huge amount of supply would actually start getting taken because of reduction in prices if you have a single window clearance. Bringing regulation into real estate, giving industry status that Mr. Mantri spoke about, all would have very positive impacts on real estate. And the last but not the least, I think there's a huge demand also for picking up leased assets in India, but today's regulations do not allow for foreign investors to pick that up. So introducing the regulation for REITs, which is pending right now, would also impact, and would further positively improve sentiments for investing in commercial real estate.
Right. Mr. Gupta, your wish list from the new government?
I think, rightly mentioned, a stable government is very, very important. I think with a stable government coming in, and even Mr. Mistry added, it will make a huge impact across all sectors across the country. And I think another important perspective from real estate perspective is, which we are going to see in the next few months, is the real estate regulatory bill, I think, which has been sanctioned by the President. So I think that bill coming in, will give a lot of confidence and a lot of protection also, I think, to the consumers. However, as real estate developers, we would have liked, if some accountability would have been there for the government officials, for the bureaucrats also. So I think, going ahead with a stable government in mind, we see economic activity picking up, and that's what we can expect.
Mr. Mantri, आप इस पे ऐड करना चाहेंगे? This one is improving transparency, second is regulatory bill, and third increasing the accountability for government officials. Because ये पहले भी मैंने कई developers जिनसे हमारी बात होती है उसमें ये view सुना है that even if you take out the red tape from the system, that itself can release a lot of stress in the system and reduce the prices also to that extent.
No, 100%. I think government need to be made more accountable. I think Gaurav just mentioned the regulatory bill. You'll be surprised to know that all the government agencies are out of the regulatory bill. So I think one way government want to bring more and more regulation on a private sector or the developers community particularly, and they want to remain a scot-free is completely, I think, unacceptable. Second thing, what we want in the regulatory bill, all the agencies who gives the permission, for example, roads, water, drainage, sewage, electricity, or any connectivity, I think they have to be brought under the regulatory regime. And unless until you do that, we will not able to hand over the building within the prescribed time, what we have committed to the buyer. So these are the challenges which we face from the government agency. One point you asked, what is our wish list? I think whichever the new government come in power, I think they should target themselves for 10% GDP growth. मतलब कोई पूछे कि वरदान एक सिंगल मांगो, तो मैं यही कहूंगा कि 10% GDP growth आप target करो. I think it will resolve all the problem and let everyone work in that single direction so that it will help to create the jobs, employment will be there, FDIs will come, and it will give lot of issues, which is confidence, what Shahzad mentioned. I think it will overcome with all the issues. So I think new government, I wish, should target 10% and try to achieve at least 8 to 9%, and that is possible. This is doable. Something impractical thing I am not talking. It is possible. Only they need to improve. They need to themselves behave in a proper fashion, remove the excess regulations, and work in a focused direction where this growth can be achieved, and it is doable.
I hope Mr. Modi and Mr. Gandhi are listening. No, you. Shahzad, so क्या आपकी war chest is ready for once the new government comes in, maybe to lend more, to fund more to all the projects?
See, as financiers, and that's financiers and investors, which is what we are in that sense, most times are reasonably good times for us. Stress to, if we've ridden out the stress, it's okay for us, or there are opportunities there too, as an investor, maybe not so much as a lender. Also, of course, we look for growth, and we are hopeful that growth will come. I mean, let me put it this way. One cannot but be bullish for a long term over the country. See, I mean, we've obviously not had a very pleasant last few years, but longer term, I mean, it's difficult not to be optimistic or not to be bullish about this country. And I certainly come for the camp that things, you've probably seen your worst, and things from here should improve, or they at least can't get to. They certainly can't get worse. Right? So certainly one is optimistic. We look forward to a lot more investing funding opportunities, and as any market grows and develops, and there was an analogy comparing investors in stock market versus now institutional investors coming in here. You're seeing this market too get more institutionalized, more investor interest, more participation. So I'm sure everything would sort itself out, and when we hopefully meet, assuming I'm invited here, at least we meet again, we would meet in far more positive environment, and we'll be talking about what growth rates can be achieved.
So Shehzad, probably lending at a lower cost, right? Next 1 year to developers.
I think both of you can have off-cam meeting once we are done.
Sure.
Yes, Mr. Mistry, closing remarks from you, because no one can gauge the pulse of this sector better than you, and also, like Mr. Mantri mentioned, that we should target 10% growth, because one thing which was missing from the manifesto released by BJP was a GDP target, which is there in the Congress manifesto. Your view.
I agree entirely. I see no reason to believe, and I honestly mean it, that if we have a stable government at the center, that we cannot get to a 10% GDP growth in, say, 5 years or 6 years' time. We obviously cannot get there in the next 1 year or 2 years, but will take time, because first sentiments will change. Change of sentiments will bring in investments. Investments will bring in growth, and growth will, over a period of time, bring in GDP numbers. So I have no doubt in my mind that with a strong, stable government at the center, I see no reason why we can't get close to a 10% growth in 5 to 6 years' time. But coming to just summarizing what we've said today, I think broadly everyone is in agreement on most of the issues. Confidence is so very important to getting a pickup in the investment cycle, and a strong government will bring in that confidence. I had a couple of points which I thought I would make. One is that if we really want to look at the long-term view and make housing more affordable to more and more people, two things we need to do. One is we have to make some reforms around land. We have to make land available at a lower price. And the second is around what both Sunil and Gaurav talked about, which is on the process of granting approvals for projects. Because once a developer has funded the land, purchased the land by borrowing money from a private equity investor at a high rate, and then it takes a long time to get the approval, and the long time is really a long time, then it adds to project cost. And ultimately the developer is not going to bear that cost himself, he's going to pass it on to the consumer. So you and I as consumers are paying for the fact that there are delays which could very much have got avoided. Now I got two interesting things on land, and just two statistics which I thought would be interesting. It says here that it is estimated that the 10 largest cities in India produce 15% of India's GDP, with 8% of the country's population, on just 0.1% of the land in India. And the second statistics here is that if you look at the top 100 cities in India, they collectively produce 43% of the GDP, with 16% of the population, but only utilize 0.24% of the land area in the country. Now, can you imagine what we can do to this country if we can make land available at a cheaper price, more land available, build the infrastructure, create more cities? That is really what will bring prices down in the long term.
All right, sir, thank you. So with this, we close the session, and the good part is whichever government comes, but I hope अच्छे दिन आने वाले हैं, so let's hope for that. And अच्छा time भी आने वाला, I think lunch will be served now. So thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, all of you. Thanks for joining.
A big thank you to all our speakers. I request Mr. Navneet Manot to please hand over mementos to all the speakers. Mr. Mihir Bhatt, Chief Zee Business. The audience is please requested to sit down. Mr. K.K. Mistry, Vice Chairman and CEO HDFC. Mr. Sunil Mantri, Chairman Mantri Realty. Mr. Gaurav Gupta, Director Omkar Realtors. Mr. Joe Vargas, Managing Director, Colliers International. and Mr. Shahzad Madin, Head PMS and Alternative Assets, Reliance Capital. I now request our panelists to pose for a photograph. We shall now break for lunch. The next session will resume at 1:30.